what I love about this is that, we're speaking to each other as equals here, Jamie. We're letting our light shine. We're not following an agenda where, somebody told us that you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way.
Yeah.
What I love about this is just how it's just naturally flowing. And, it's not my intention for like 1 million people to see this. It's okay. It's okay if 1 or 2 people, who really resonate at that level see this, because, from that frequency and from, studying Reiki and from studying the energetic, portents of the emotions, 1 person vibrating at clarity, love, joy, peace, enlightenment, is just as powerful as, thousands of people vibrating in fear or vibrating in guilt or shame. So what I love about this is that, we're kind of, we're just letting our light shine, and I love and appreciate you for that, Jamie. That's great.
I do too. And, you're making me think of Mike Dooley. I watch Mike Dooley like on the daily. He's just a ball of light. And so if you ever get a chance to watch him, he's incredible. He does like little 15-minute things every morning on Facebook. But he talks about how the power of a positive thought is so much bigger than the positive of a negative, or than the the positivity just comes through than the resonance of a negative thought. So there's been a lot of negativity in the world, right? And we have all this negativity going on. But if we start to pop and have people pop, one by one, like you said, even on a small scale, that makes a huge difference for the world. Imagine, we really could have a community utopia. We could bring heaven to earth if people really got this on that 1,000 level. That 1,000 people level. And it will happen. I don't have a doubt in my mind. I run a group on Facebook called Peace on the Planet in our lifetime. Peace on the Planet in our lifetime. So if you see that, it's only got like 100 people in it or 120 people in it, but it's growing every week or so. Somebody will join, and it's like, this is what we're up to. We're just up to, let's have the intention of peace on the planet in our lifetime. So
I do want to speak one thing to that too, is like, even if someone is in a position where they're constantly feeling shame or guilt or anger or any of those things, greed, acknowledge that. That's powerful, because, in a sense, you jump up into clarity just by being honest with yourself about that. But, owning and knowing the subtleties of all of the emotions is very powerful. Like, for instance, you take one emotion that a lot of people seem to be feeling right now is anger and frustration. That's great if you're feeling anger or frustration, because one step above anger is pride, owning it. And that's great. If the anger is regressive, it brings you back down into fear and greed, fear and obsession. So just being able to acknowledge, where you're at is very powerful. And that's the thing, the expectation, sometimes, teachers come in, self-help gurus come in and tell you you're not allowed to have negative thoughts and all that. And my response is, no, honor what you're feeling, because, it's one step at a time. Each of those emotions serve a powerful purpose. So I think there's a lot to be said that, if you're having a negative emotion, own it, embrace it. And
that's right.
And from my background and from my experience, just being conscious of it will help you be aware of whether or not something like anger is progressive or regressive. And only you can know that. Only you.
Only you can check in. Right. Yeah. Mike, I love that you said that. I think because it goes with the whole acceptance conversation, like being with where we really are. So it's a totally natural thing that you just went there. And I think I even remember the last time I saw I saw the look on your face when we were in person, but we were wearing masks, we were distanced, we were outside. And I looked at you and I knew right away, it was like, because we're very in tune with each other at this time, I knew you were upset about something, and you were worried for the health of your family. You were concerned. And by expressing that, I was able to then go around to everyone and say, please make sure that you have your mask on. We have high-risk people that are here, even though we're outdoors. If you're not eating, please make sure you're wearing your mask. But if you hadn't expressed that, there would be that action would not have taken place. So by being with where we are able to then create the reality we want to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that too, I want to tag on to that as well too. A lot of that was having a lot of empathy for my wife and my relationship as well too. So yeah.
Well, that's where it stems from. That's true love. That's love. You know, that's how it is. And when you really, really care on that deep level, you can really acknowledge where you are. And you know, I also want to point out, I don't know if you can see this, but back here, I have this red punching bag, you know, in the corner there. And, you know, every once in a while, you know, if I get angry or frustrated or upset with something, you better believe I'm acknowledging that and moving it through. I don't want that to sit stagnant in my body. There's great works by Louise Hay for those who are suffering with health issues that really help to acknowledge metaphysical reason for why you're having a physical problem. And most of it stems from your anger and your upset around something that you haven't acknowledged. So if you start to acknowledge those things and be with those things and move through them and really feel those emotions, not only are you living a fuller life and experiencing the ups and downs and the many nuances of life, but you are also clearing your body of any of that upset. And this is how people have, you know, responded to cancer. If you watch The Secret, they talk about, you know, filling your body with that positive energy and releasing all the negativity. So really, I mean, there's actually science behind it now. It's not just woo stuff. So take a look.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to interject one thing, and then I'll let you get to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, with the punching bag and everything that comes up for me is this idea, and I will source it, but is this idea that all feelings given presence, you know, allowing themselves to express themselves fully, will eventually lead back to joy. But we spend so much time and energy suppressing what we think of as negative or undesirable emotions, you know, that it blocks us to that joy. I don't know where that thought originally officially came from, but I heard it first from Jarek Robbins, Tony Robbins' son.
Okay.
I was very grateful for you know, for that insight, because that day we did a performance, you know, for a mental health facility in New Jersey. Where, you know, we do a play about putting our emotions on trial. And that became a big focal point of that conversation after the play, was that, you know, if we think of our feelings as friends, if we think of anger and fear as friends, and they're allowed to express themselves in a safe place, it'll eventually release and lead back to joy.
That's right. Great. Yep.
Okay. That was
very good. I love that. I think that's, well, it goes, you know, I think Disney tapped into that with the movie Inside Out. It's like, you know, between the anger and the fear and the joy and the sadness, you know, and they do lead back.
I compare the play to that. It's a combination between Inside Out and Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks.
Oh, I love that movie. That's one of the best movies ever. That is one of the most romantic, amazing movies. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'd love to. We could have a movie club where we discuss that movie, because I've seen it like 3 times and I love it. Okay, I do want to touch on something that I want to bring people who are watching this back to why they're watching it. You know, and you know, in the deep democracy conversation, the 3 barriers to deep democracy, you said, you know, that we're looking for change agents and influencers and thought leaders. And I want to touch on this for a second, because, you know, I think the way I came to this conversation is I did not see myself as a change agent. Yeah. I did not see myself as an influencer. I did not see myself as a thought leader. I thought, this is what I thought. I'm a misfit and I'm totally out of place and nobody is going to want what I have to offer. Wow. Yeah. And that's, I think, where a lot of people come from, because the people that come from these thoughts and ideas that you and I have had and that the world is starting to wake up to, which is great, because I do see evidence of that. You know, I think the people who feel the way we do, they start off as feeling really out of place because they're really marginalized by their families. why don't you want things to stay the way they are? Why are you the black sheep? Why are you always trying to push for something different or against the grain? And I think and I run into my boyfriend's one of these people. The group that I worked with on the course are these people. It's the people from The Greatest Showman that are all of the quote unquote freaks. The bearded lady sings a song about this. This is me. This is who I am, and I have been outcast, right? Mm-hmm. So I think I want to just go to that place, speaking of acknowledging where we are, right? Yeah. Is I want to go to that place where we're appealing to people who are like, yeah, I just feel differently than most of the world. I don't understand why it's this way. Why are we so in compete with each other? Why are we like, and I noticed this when I did a lot of research, when I was at my, in my marketing management exec job, on the management team with the president of the company, multi-million-dollar company. We did a lot of research into millennial behavior, right? Because, actually I was making pharmaceutical skincare products for moms to use on their babies for diaper rash. And the millennial mom really thinks differently than a lot of, so the millennials, a lot of people wrong them, like from the baby boomer generation, from the Gen X generation, wrong the millennials for coming from this unstructured, we don't know what to do kind of place. And there's a lot of shaming going on for that age group. And then they start to feel really inadequate, like I can't adult, or I can't do these things that are expected of me. And as my kids are growing, I'm seeing their behavior and I'm going, boy, these kids are really lost. And it's up to us, the people who are the change makers and the influencers, although we haven't seen ourselves that way, to like reach out and go, okay. And this goes with your power versus force. So I love that. And I've read that book. I love that book. I'm glad you mentioned it. The power that we have, if we stand in our power and say, okay, if we can own, you and I can own the change agent and influencer and thought leader status, we can start to say, we got this. We know what we're doing. You're from a financial background. I'm from a marketing background, life coaching background. We got you, right? Then they feel supported. And we're like, we're on the island of misfit toys going, we're here. We got you, right? You're welcome here. Your views are welcome here. We recognize that you are disenfranchised with the whole system. You are disillusioned from what the illusions are that the system has set up for us, right? And so they are the people, and recognizing them as they feel out of place, out of sync with where the world is, like no one agrees with them, and like no one understands them. Yeah. And that's how I felt. And I needed people to really take their hand and go, no, I got you. Yeah. I hear you. I understand where you're coming from. And you're absolutely right. There is something wrong here. There's something that isn't working. Yes. Okay. And wrong, right? Okay, fine. We can go into that nothing is wrong and nothing is right. But really, there is we have to, like, going with that whole acknowledgement, we have to go with, there is something that is off. There is something that only works for certain people and doesn't work for others. Yes. So let's play a new game. As you said, let's play a new game. But we have to recognize that people do not see themselves as change agents. They don't see themselves as influencers. They see themselves as misplaced, out of sorts, out of whack. Like their whole families are telling them, why don't you have a house yet? Why don't you have a wife or a spouse, a spouse yet? Why don't you have a children? What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And there's so many cultures. So I follow Jonathan Yatsky too on Facebook, excellent life coach and therapist in the area, in the Phoenixville area, but he is going global.
Yeah. Can I interject? Can I interject?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
please.
but that's powerful. That what comes up for me, Jamie, is yeah, I am a misfit. I've played many roles and have been turned down for jobs actually because of my diversity of background. But one of the things that I was most passionate about was being a drama teacher. And I don't have a master's degree. I don't even have a bachelor's degree in drama, but I do have a background in life coaching and peak performance technologies. And so a lot of the students that I worked with in my early career are the millennial parents now.
Yes.
And
yes.
It's interesting because when I talk to my Gen X peers, and even those from the boomer generation, they talk about how the millennials are very difficult to work with. They talk about, some of them have even gone so far as to say, I don't think they have a soul.
That's horrible. That's terrible.
It is. And I was kind of surprised and shocked at that. I've always had a wonderful relationship with millennials because when I trained them with drama and drama technique, I put a lot of Meisner technique into a lot of my work, but I created this course called the 21st Century Hero's Journey, where we did some deep emotional work that corresponded with moments in the hero's journey. And it was just really about just being honest, creating characters around honesty. And my association with that generation is very positive. It's very very productive. And and when you say that, we've got you, we're here, I immediately flashed back to working with the teenagers, when I was in my 20s and in my 30s, and help them, become honest, and help them really delve into the psychology of the stories they resonated with, like the Harry Potter story, and really find their honest value. So that came very strongly to me when you were, demonstrating. It's like, we've got you, we understand, and I want to take ownership of the fact that, yeah, I am a misfit. And
I want to join Dumbledore's army too. Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's so great. I also want to bring up, I grew up in a very sort of yuppie environment. I was Bucks County, Pennsylvania girl, and my parents always went on these lavish vacations. We always went to Hawaii, and I would go on these vacations. And, you think that I should, like, as a young kid, appreciate everything. And I did. I really did appreciate what I had. And at the same time we would go away, I'd go, we're in these lavish places and there's so much going on. But I know, and I'm aware of, so many other people don't get to have this. And I used to sit there with this kind of on my face, and my parents would be like, well, what's wrong? And I'd just be like, well, I just had this sense like this wasn't right. It wasn't right to be experiencing this when so many other people didn't have that, and I was like, why are we not doing something about that? And it never sat well with me that we were, well-to-do and just not, and my parents were nice people. They were, good to the community. They participated. They kept us active. I was also in theater and dance, and, but I always felt like this sense of, I need to, there's something else I get to be doing to help things along. I just don't feel right. So if you have that feeling, if you're watching this and you have that feeling, that's the feeling. That's it. That's the feeling of you're a person who, yes, you definitely, now in my life, I've gotten to a place where I'm like so happy with my life that I'm like, every moment is happiness for me. I pull it from somewhere in here. It's not external.
Yes.
So, and I started to talk about Jonathan Yatsky. He's the one who's really, really helped me with that. So, definitely look him up. But I was going to say, we were talking about different ways that the world is. And so I do want to say this point. Jonathan and his wife, Sophie, they do Movie Club Mondays. And last night I was watching The Joy Luck Club. And I don't know if you've ever read that book or you've seen that movie, but it really highlights how women in China are so suppressed with their emotions that they really don't, like, the truth of the matter is that they really just aren't experiencing that level of joy, like you said, that comes from really being with those emotions and then expanding through them and acknowledging them and sharing them, and then being able to be with, okay, I just had this amazing experience of life, come through me. And the reason I'm so sad or so angry is because of my love for my daughter, because of my love for my son, because of my love for my spouse, or because of my love for country, or whatever it is that is your why, right? That there's so many countries that have not, and even in America, we have not acknowledged where we are. We're so stuck on being in resistance. So just to acknowledge that you're someone who is questioning the world, questioning how things are. Like you said, the teenagers who, you were giving them things to resonate with, like Harry Potter, like there is hope. There are people who are in Dumbledore's army ready for you to play with, not necessarily fight with, but play with. So I wrote that vacation example down because there were these small voices that always said to me, you're meant to be doing something else, not just sitting here. But I do think it gave me an appreciation. And I do value it. And I do, in every moment, I can look at my backyard and just be appreciative. So, and not be stuck in that space of, oh gosh, I have to be doing something so different because I'm having this conversation with you, because I know that we are playing a new game. Absolutely. So, and that brings me peace and joy. And I want other people to experience that as well. So, oh my goodness. I have so many more notes. Should I keep going?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about just a couple of specifics. At the beginning of your 3 barriers to deep democracy, Mike, you talk about, or you give an infinity symbol.
Yeah.
And I love the infinity symbol because it shows that we are not linear. We are constantly moving along a continuum. And as this conversation has proven, it's a continuum. It's not a beginning, middle, end. It's a flow.
Absolutely. Yes.
There on the cell phone, and I do pay attention to this because everyone's on a cell phone now. The graphic that you have, that's the atoms, looks like a skull. Like it looks like two eye sockets.
I think I saw that after you had mentioned that. I think
is it once you see something you can't unsee it? So I was like, oh my goodness, like that's a skull. That's not good. That's got some dark energy in it. And I think, and you also made a comment to me, which I think is interesting because it took me a bit to get through the presentations because it's difficult subject matter to really hear unless you're really ready for it. And dark forces do come into play to keep us from hearing this conversation because they don't want us to be in this conversation. So, really, pay attention to that. Actually, there's another book that comes to mind, The Journey Home by Lee Carroll Cryon, which is talks about the darkness that follows us where we go, and we have to acknowledge it. We have to say there is darkness here on this planet. There is darkness in our hearts, and there's a light and a dark side. There's a yin and a yang, and so we have to acknowledge that, because if we don't, then that dark side is just going to swallow us, and we're not going to even realize that it's swallowing us while it's feasting on us. So we really have to be aware and acknowledge, and that's why we have to acknowledge those negative emotions as much as the positive ones.
Yes.
But anyway, so so it looks kind of dark on the PC as well, but on the cell phone, it really looks like a skull. And I'm thinking maybe we could use, I don't know why I wrote this. It says maybe we could use a true or something brighter, lighter. I don't know what that means.
A tree.
A tree.
Bring a tree.
I said a tree. That's right. You're right. Tree or true. I thought it said true. Okay. Yeah, and with roots, because we're growing something new, or something that implies a new game of some sort. I'm not sure, but yeah, something regenerative, because we're looking at the regenerative nature. So I also look at branding for people in this. You mentioned your 2 separate courses that you're offering, and I can definitely help with those. I wanted to put my hat in the ring to really support you in that. I've created courses before. Absolutely. I love it. It's really, it's tough work. It's not easy work. But it's the work that's worth it.
So and that's the kind of thing too, with especially with the fellowship side of things. I do want visionaries. I do want pioneers like you, who have developed courses to, find synergy between all the work that we're really doing. So yeah, that's my intention. Absolutely.
Great. I'm also going to acknowledge that I have a little bit of a cold right now, so I'm a little drippy. I'm like,
that's okay. Always come as you are. I mean, that's
acknowledging where I am at the moment.
Come as you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. We've got, let's see. So we talk about the cultural divisiveness and how there's holding different points of view, social media, acquired sociopathy, abuse of power. The wealthy are suffering a sort of brain damage, which I think is so true. On some level, I mean, some wealthy don't, but a lot do. Competitive conditioning, and it's very extractive. So I really, I love what you did with that. I think that was totally fine. I wanted to acknowledge that. The 3 pillars of economic stability, fellowship facilitation. I loved your example, the African proverb of go fast, go alone, go far, go together, get to the finish line. I think your acknowledgement of the fact that most people, like, as they're going alone, they kind of fall down right before the finish line. They don't realize that they're right there. And all it takes is, that, like we said, come play this new game with us. We're here. We got you. We see you. We acknowledge who you are and what you're standing for. I love that you said that most people are at a 5 to 10-year-old emotional level, because, oh gosh, is that true? And actually, there's a reason for that. And I don't know if anybody is aware of this, but during the 2012, and Cryon Lee Carroll talks about this all the time. 2012, there was the Mayan calendar thought the world was gonna end, right?
Yeah.
And actually, the fact of the matter is, it did. It really did. And a new energy began to come in that allows us to start to see. And so the earth and the people on the earth, most of us, it's now 2021. So if you do the math, we're all 9 years old.